Welcome to Real Flix Reviews. We're like a book club for people hate reading. This week we're doing the movie Lone Survivor, made in 2013, and we bring you movie news at the end of the program. This week we have Jonathan Charney, James Stevens, Ryan Preston, and the old guy.
Hey, the old guy's here.
So I think I'll get the description this time.
Okay.
As my iPad locks up. It says Marcus Luttrell.
Do I need to do it?
Would
you like me to do it?
No, I came back.
Marcus Luttrell and his team set out on a mission to capture or kill notorious Taliban leader Ahmed Shah. In late June 2005, Marcus and his team are left to fight for their lives in one of the most valiant efforts of modern warfare. So who wants to start?
I'm going to start. Now, I gotta say that it's very unfortunate that this movie is actually based on a true story.
I agree. Yeah. It's very
because, as far as I'm concerned, I'm sitting there like, dude, shoot the goat herders. Mm-hmm. Shoot them all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kill every last one of them and cut their heads off and eat the goats.
It's very hard to believe that they didn't. Now, okay, they must have some kind of code they decided amongst themselves. We're not going to take out civilians.
Well, they actually said it. They actually said it in that scene. He said it was against the rules of war, and they would end up in jail.
Well, they also mentioned, do we want to be on CNN?
Yeah. They also said, because Marky Mark said, we all have friends who are spending the rest of their lives in Leavenworth because of magazines. So why, so we're not going to do this because it's going to same thing happen to us.
I get that, but I mean,
I don't know that I get that.
You're behind. I get,
I understand what John said. Don't get me wrong. I just don't understand why they have this rule. It's war. All right. And we're going to go there. We're going to do war. Civilians are they're casualties. And I have to agree that, but we're not supposed to be debating the fact that this is what happened. We're supposed to be talking about the movie.
No, and then the other thing I had to say about it is that, and I would have also slaughtered the Taliban jackasses that were coming into town, especially when they said, we're going to come back and kill you people.
Right.
Why didn't you shoot them then?
You had plenty of time.
Didn't have enough ammo.
So,
they had to go back and get some more ammo. Too many people. They
counted heads. Also, that was a part of the movie that was taking liberties with,
Yeah, but, those two things were like, if this was me in combat at that time, this would not have been much to do except for, my trial.
You know what bothers me about this is that
I can see it now.
Under the sniper movie. Gosh, I forgot the guy's name. The name of the movie. Lone
Sniper.
You're
talking about Mark Wahlberg and
the shootist.
Shooter.
Marky Mark too.
Yeah.
I read the actual sniper's book. When I read his book, civilians were targets. There was no. Hey, I'm a sniper. I'm assigned to drop anything that pops its head up.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time understanding why in this engagement, all of a sudden now civilians are not.
Well, I think that's why they were also calling back to find out, to get the clearance to kill them or something,
I kind of thought that conversation sort of mentioned, or not mentioned, but gave an indication as the product of the times, just because of like you said. I mean, look, you think this isn't going to come out? You know what I mean? Like they're going to find out, and it's going to be the news that finds out, and then they're going to, obviously something's going to have to happen. I'm sure if it was one of those situations where no reprisal, nobody's ever going to know about it, their demeanor might have been a little different.
Yeah.
But the way they made it sound is like if they did this, the military was going to stab them in the back, and like some of their friends happened. So it sounded like they were actually scared to do it.
But that kind of
I believe it.
Yeah, I believe that too. The other thing I really wanted to jump into is because that was one of the things that kind of bothered me. I'm like, dude, I think they should have just shot him. Mm-hmm. Would have made life a lot easier.
Or tie him up.
Would have let him live.
Or tie him up.
Or I thought about that too. I mean, they didn't do anything. Just said, "Okay, goodbye." Oh shit, we're going to be in trouble.
Right?
Yeah.
Duh.
The other thing I want to mention is, dude, those hills that they fell down.
Right?
Yeah.
Dear God.
I know.
That's gotta suck.
I love Mark Wahlberg's first comment. Where's my rifle? Where's my rifle? Not like, oh.
Yeah, and then he goes, God's looking out for us. This is God looking out for us.
What's a soldier without his rifle?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to know where all those guys kept getting those RPGs. I mean, it's like They keep like
They fart and they come out.
They have like a backpack full of RPG
Hey,
heads.
the Russians, man, they pump those things out by like toothpicks.
Yeah.
Just it was funny. Like every couple of minutes, they're getting hit by RPGs.
Well, I'll tell you what. For 4 guys, they did one hell of a job wiping out at least half of
Right.
the numbers. So they did a hell of a job, but they paid the ultimate sacrifice for it.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm
Did
Yeah,
you also
yeah.
get the feeling that the army was screwing them over?
Yes.
Seriously,
yes.
they're like, they're
What
trying
happened
to
to the
get these
sat
guys
phone?
out, and then all of a sudden they have what's it called? They couldn't go out there because the Blackhawks or was
No,
it
there's the Apaches.
The Apaches,
No,
or
thank you.
Comanches or
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Apaches weren't coming with them because the army is in,
Yeah,
They
and then they
has a-
requested them.
But then those poor
Has
Well,
a
they
guys.
big-
got pulled off for somebody else that was taking fire. It was some kind of a combat decision.
And you had to feel bad for those other copter guys that said, "Screw it, we're going in to get them."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that
they
should
get
take an
blown up.
RPG up.
and
the
that
back.
Chinook
Yeah.
got blown up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, the number of people that died on that whole thing was a total.
Right.
Because of goat herders.
Right.
Yeah,
Shoot them.
Well, that was funny. I actually heard I was talking to somebody, and they said in Vietnam
It's a foobar.
they would kill anybody who was over the age of 5
Yeah.
because of what happened is they would run home and then they would narc on the U.S.
James.
troops.
What's that?
James, how could you kill women and children?
You just don't lead them so much. Yeah, you're right.
It's a
but
movie reference,
The
ladies
other
and
thing
gentlemen.
is
it was
that
like, what did you feel when you made that shot?
recoil.
Exactly.
The thing I was gonna say is, in Vietnam, it wasn't just that they would run back and tell the village, but those little kids that they were like, oh, here's a chocolate bar, and they turn around, they got shot in the back by those kids.
Yeah.
Because some of them had guns.
But the whole
Or some of
Vietnam
them had
era,
hand grenades.
Yeah.
the whole Vietnam era situation was totally different because it was completely run by Nixon and
Robert
by the Pentagon, and the rules of engagement from the president at that particular time. No, we don't want you to bomb beyond the certain parallel number. I forget it now. I'm an old
49.
guy. And,
Hike.
I mean, you had certain things that you couldn't do. I mean, we could have gone in there and finished the whole thing had we done it right. And this is another example of military sending our guys out there saying, okay, go out and do this, but you can't shoot young people, you can't shoot goat herders, you can't shoot the goats, you can't shoot the goats' mothers. Come on.
Yeah.
I am kind of surprised. It was a great part of the story, and unfortunately, it was probably true. How like every single piece of equipment they had didn't work. Even the satellite phone, which is always supposed to work, just somehow died.
Well, that's the
Yeah,
interesting
well,
part too.
the hills of Afghanistan, make the communication.
But a
Difficult.
sat phone
Kinda
should work.
shitty.
Yeah, a satellite phone should work though, as Jim said.
It depends. Those they don't have satellites all for phones over
I was just gonna say,
Afghanistan.
well,
Who's
thank
going
you,
to pay
China,
the bill?
for making the sat phone.
The one thing that surprised me, this whole thing was made by Shaky Cam.
Yeah.
That was the one thing that really stood out to me the most. It's like, I'm getting nauseous here. Some of the scenes is like,
Well, like you mentioned about the falling off the cliffs or
Oh,
those,
man.
taking those falls. It's just
Oh.
like, how did those guys just, compound fractures every time they went? I don't
Oh yeah,
understand.
I mean that scene with Marky Mark, like with his bone and
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like shoving it back in, and
It's been like 25 years. When are we going to stop calling him Marky Mark?
never,
Yeah, that's what I said.
never.
Wahlberg.
And then
this Mark Wahlberg.
he's like,
Nope.
my wife was watching it, and she's like, "What is that in his leg?" I said, "That's a chunk of metal fragment."
yeah.
And then he the kid brings him a duck, Mr. Blinky, Mr.
That was-
Blinky, as I
Yeah, I
call
thought he
him.
wanted him to kill the duck. Okay, that's another
Oh,
story.
man.
And then he
That was
lifts it
the
up and pulls
funniest
that
moment.
chunk of metal out.
Yeah.
See, I was thinking it was like one of the RPG fins because that's what it kind of looked like.
I thought it was a
couldn't tell.
compound fracture at first too.
No,
until
he did have a compound
Yeah, yeah,
fracture
but he-
in his shin, and then up in his thigh.
Yeah, okay.
He had a chunk of metal fragment or
the-
something.
Oh,
There's the
better
one
man
scene-
than I would have been. I would have
there's-
been dead.
There's the one scene
Well,
before he got
I
dragged
actually,
in, he was pushing
according to the book, he was not really like limping around. He was paralyzed from the waist down,
Yeah, he was
and
dragging
had to
himself.
pretty much crawl for like 9 hours on
Yeah.
his belly, just to
Wow.
get to like that town.
Yeah,
Wow.
and the scene.
So it's actually even worse than they really depicted.
Oh man.
The scene before, the house scene, he was pushing. He had that fracture. Jim said he was actually pushing it back in, and then later when he got the house, you saw him ask for the knife, and the guy, the 3 or 4 different things happened.
Yeah, I mean, well, he had. Oh, it's just the the Blinky kid, Downsy, as I like to refer to him. Downsy or Blinky, one of the two. Brings him a duck. And then the dad comes in with a knife and wants to kill the duck.
I disavow all knowledge of James Stevens. I have no knowledge of what comes from his mouth.
Please email him, man.
Watch that video. Watch that scene and tell me that kid does not blink a lot. And
James's home phone number is
It's not Blinky that he had a problem with.
No, I kind of had a problem with that kid. He was getting annoying.
I think it was funny. One of my favorite parts of the movie was before before they started fighting at the base, where they were hazing the new SEAL. The whole thing was funny. The actual Marcus Luttrell was actually in the beginning scene when they said, "Should we shave him?" He was actually in that one. That whole scene, including the part where
he had a cameo, huh?
Yeah. Including the part...
he was in the background. He was also the guy that spilled the coffee and told him to clean all this shit up.
Yeah. The whole scene, I thought that was funny, including the part where he had to recite that really stupid poem.
Yeah.
That's... wow. Don't let any Navy SEALs hear you say that.
You know, actually, the poem wasn't... There was some parts that were funny, but yeah, for the most part, it was kind of like, all right, you know, frogmen.
Ribbit.
I mean,
I've known a number of SEALs in my lifetime. I still know a couple of them, and they're nothing like portrayed in this movie as far as this goes.
Some of them aren't.
You know, yeah.
But, you know, then again, you know, I've known a lot of Marines, and there's some Marines that fit the jarhead.
Yeah, and some
you know, knuckle dragger type people, and then there's others that are, you know, very, you know,
regular.
Regular people.
I have one question. 3 of those guys had grenade launchers on their weapons, and only used once. The whole time I was like, "You got a bloody grenade launcher? Use it!"
Yeah, he only fired that thing once, man. As soon as I would have remembered, oh shit, I have an M203, I would have loaded everyone. Hey, give me more grenades.
Even though they had it on their guns, it does not mean they were given ordnance.
You gotta understand that one.
He used it once.
Yeah, you gotta understand the way our military thinks sometimes.
But yeah, he was probably only given that one round. He was trying to make sure it counted.
So we'll never know the truth on that one, because you're right. Why not use everything that you have?
Yeah, I would have been using that thing right off the bat. As soon as I mean, not right off the bat. I would have gotten a couple guys close and try to, you know, get them to buster.
So they have 1 grenade and like 24 smoke grenades.
No, they only used 1 smoke.
No, they used 2 or 3.
Did they?
Yeah.
There was only one scene that I saw them use smoke.
No, it was like 2. There were both scenes when they were retreating down.
It wasn't enough smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it was a windy day.
Well, those smoke grenades, I mean, they take a while to really build up. So it's like, you got to throw it before you're looking down at the thing going like, I'm going to jump down that thing. You got to think like 2 minutes ahead.
The realism parts of it were actually amazing, where that one guy lost both of his fingers.
Oh, man.
That scene, you know, even up the scene leading up to that, when they were shooting the guys, when you see him frantically hitting it, the Taliban guys, I was really impressed.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a couple scenes that were pretty good on that.
Those were some very tough men.
Yeah.
All right? There's no doubt about that. We're not taking anything away from them.
Oh, no, they're guaranteed they're tough. I mean, how many, like you said it earlier, was how many did they take out?
Oh, yeah.
One guy really hurt his ankle, and he was still walking. So, I mean, these guys were were definitely tough.
One of the things my wife mentioned is at least they took out 10 for each one of them.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So
yeah, all I would have had to do was look at that first kill and be like, I'm out.
I surrender.
Delivery.
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, seriously, they were tough guys. The story was good for what it was. I still got to say there's a couple things like, it's unfortunate that they could not get clearance to decide what to do with the goat herders in the beginning.
So
I would have not afraid to.
But it comes down to a communication issue, right? We all talked about that, and I have not read the book. And was there any definite reason that he gave that why they were having such problems?
Well, they said there was a 2-hour window every couple hours.
Communication problems due to the mountainous terrain.
Understood.
But they also said there was a 2-hour window for communication.
Okay,
so
what that meant is there's a satellite.
The atmosphere was right.
What's going on is then there's a satellite that's on an orbit and it comes overhead every 2 hours. So that's why that's happening. And as far as the sat phone goes, the reality is they only place those satellites where they know they're going to get business. Afghanistan's not going to be one of those places, so they don't have one really near. So the odds of that phone working.
You would think the U.S. government has enough satellites; it could just move one over for a couple hours.
Push it over a little bit, right?
DirecTV and
right.
Dish Network have the most satellites up there. It's not necessarily America.
It's money.
Well, that we know of.
Money.
You know,
yeah, we know. There's a lot of military.
You think Star Wars is up there?
Yes.
Yeah, Luke and Leia are battling right as we speak.
I think so.
Anyways.
The other thing, I was actually impressed with the weapons handling in this movie. It's not like most normal Hollywood movies. You actually saw them reload. You saw them actually cycle rounds.
Where you say lock and load?
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of load and lock, right?
Here, give me that clip.
Yeah.
You actually heard them. You actually saw them physically use the weapons correctly, mostly.
The what?
The weapons.
Weapon.
Don't make me turn this thing around, damn it. You know, they actually saw him use the weapons correctly. I was actually impressed. You know, it's not like even most Hollywood true stories where they're using Instagib the whole time.
Well, Peter Berg, I mean, pretty much while he was doing Hancock, he read the book, and from there basically was like, oh, well, I got to do this movie, and he wanted to do it before he did Battleship.
Yeah.
But Universal and sort of some kind of a scheduling conflict made him do otherwise.
Because Battleship's a moneymaker.
But I mean, this was pretty much just a labor of love for Peter Berg and also for Mark Wahlberg, who was executive producer. They all took a pay cut. They went for SAG minimum.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they all worked for I think $17,000 a week.
Yeah.
Which is the Screen Actors Guild minimum that you can pay an actor.
Pretty much work for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really surprisingly low budget for this type of a movie. It was only $40 million.
It's good to know they can make a movie that cheap now.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays it's insane, but I think that's a lot of the reason for the there was really hardly any Steadicam shots, and obviously no crane shots. They weren't going to afford that kind of stuff.
Yeah, not in that terrain for one. Either.
So they definitely filmed it on the cheap. I mean, I heard it was like a 40-day shoot, which is
wow.
For this kind of a thing is really short. And the type of stuff that they were having to film. And I mean, mostly he just wanted to kind of stay true to the story, of the survival. You know what I mean? And obviously it definitely laid heavy on the toughness and just the survival instinct of these four guys.
Yeah.
Not to mention the rescue efforts of the army, pararescue troops and et cetera. But I mean, to me, that's more or less what it was. It was pretty much this is a good hero story that is pretty much mostly true, but it really played like a hero story. It definitely didn't kind of give you that room to decide whether you I mean, there were moments where you might not agree with the things that were happening, but you agreed with the survival instinct at least.
And there didn't seem to be a whole lot of Hollywood alliteration like almost all true stories have in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, some of it I could see, but I think it was done maybe just for time or just for story-wise, but it wasn't like...
Right, I think a couple of, maybe just one or two things were exaggerated for a dramatic effect, but, I mean, it's definitely sort of a narrative. It's narrative, nonfiction, so, I mean, it has that drama effect in it. It has to have the drama in order for it to be, a movie. So, you kind of got to let them have a couple of liberties at least. But, I mean, I was surprised how true that they stayed to really what I've heard went down.
Yeah, and enough so that apparently Marcus Luttrell was not only in it, but apparently he was asked to help with the movie.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, there's your perfect, why hire another military consultant?
Yeah. Because I have a feeling if they made too much liberties with it or made it more anti-America, that you would have heard him complaining more.
Peter Berg also, I mean, he wrote it himself. I mean, I don't even think he wrote it with anybody else. Maybe with some help with Luttrell. But he went and talked to all the families of the deceased soldiers or SEALs, and really tried to get into the story. So I think that's why it doesn't feel like your average Hollywood story, because he really was trying to, tell it from his perspective of the.
Which is good.
SEALs.
I like that fact.
And the casting in this movie was actually really impressive.
Very good. Friggin' Emil Hirsch and what's that kid's name? Taylor Kirch or something like that.
Yeah, Taylor Kitsch.
I can't think of it. Anyway, they were killing it in this movie. No pun intended.
Taylor Kitsch, Emil Hirsch, and Ben Foster.
Yeah, Ben Foster. Yeah.
I was really impressed. I mean, for pretty much being a four-person movie, they carried this movie really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to mention a really thin Eric Bana.
Right. So
The skinniest I've ever seen that guy.
So what do you give this movie, Ryan?
I was thinking about that before we even started this, and the whole time while I was watching, I've seen it a couple of times actually. It's definitely entertaining enough, no matter how sort of real and gritty it gets. It's still enough of I don't know, maybe it's the hero part of the story that makes it so watchable. If it had a different narrative, if it had a different perspective, it might not have had the same effect. I definitely think they did a better job than most of these movies. I got to go with a 3, just for really liking it, and yeah.
Because I kind of think this movie was also kind of an underdog story too, which plays really well.
Definitely.
So what about you, James?
I give it a 3. I think it's good for what it is. I mean, I didn't think it was breathtaking or blow me out of the water good, but it was good for what it was. So 3.
Rob?
I give the movie a 3, and I give the military guys that sent these guys on this mission a 0.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie's a 3, but these real guys that lost their lives and were sent on the mission that was
total
flawed from the beginning.
They were hamstrung.
Shame on them.
Yeah.
He actually said that too. Remember, there's a scene where they were talking about it, and the guy's like, too many moving parts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
He said that right before they deployed.
Yep.
I actually give this a 4 to 5. I actually think it deserves a 3, but because I actually thought they did pretty good justice to the story. It wasn't a typical Hollywood anti-America movie, which most of these movies become.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with you, Jonathan. I understand why you would do that.
It wasn't an anti-gun.
Yeah.
I thought this was pretty fair. It even criticized the military, and I think the military was even involved in this somehow. So for me, it was a strong 4 to 5.
Good.
And what?
This is unprecedented. It's John not being the curmudgeon.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
The next is the movie news.
On a movie that's not a B-rated movie.
Hey, or an old movie that got a lot of awards for the year it was released.
Okay, stop.
In 1950s.
Go to your news.
Hey, you're right. I'm right. You can't.
Did you find movie news, John?
Yes.
All right.
The one is not a real surprise movie. Is Will Smith won't be back for Independence Day 2.
No.
Because he's down and determined to make his bad acting of a son an actor.
No Will Smith.
Well, the problem is it's Independence Day, and he was one of the reasons that movie was even decent.
Yeah, I was going to say, why would you even make another one without him?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Wait.
Come on.
I'm still confused as to why they're going to do one.
Because they've been wanting to make one since it came out.
So is this
Really?
They've been wanting to make a sequel. They just never lined up or not a good enough script.
So how's the sequel work? More aliens this time, or
yeah,
what?
probably more aliens.
I mean, come on.
No, Brett Spinner's back. And
Well, I mean, obviously one of the aliens survives.
Here we go again. Hey, what have we been saying all along? Come on, Hollywood, come up with some new freaking material.
I really liked Independence Day. So
I did too.
Independence Day 2 is one I've always wanted, but I've wanted with Will Smith.
I thought that little speech that the president gave. I can't remember the guy's name right off the top of my head.
Bill Paxton.
Was that real? The president?
Oh yeah, that's one of the greatest.
Which, by the way, he apparently
in a movie.
Yeah.
Which apparently he loves to do hammered in bars. So he's known for apparently doing it in the middle of when he's hammered.
Oh, happy
Why
day.
not? I mean, it's a great monologue.
And
Yeah, it was.
it was actually one of the better ones I've heard.
Yeah. It was one of the best president speeches in a movie, just like Ryan said.
And here's one that's going to really surprise everybody. The movie Gravity becomes the third film in history to make more than $100 million.
Wait, what?
The movie Gravity, you know that weird one with Sandra
the
Bullock?
stupid Sandra Bullock
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, made $100 million.
How?
Because it was Sandra Bullock.
Well, and it was kind of a
I
spectacle.
know.
You know
I
what
know
I mean?
why.
It's-
Because they didn't use a set.
All three CG.
How much did that movie cost to make?
With all the CG, probably quite a bit.
So,
You're
let's
probably
say-
a couple $100 million.
I thought it was close to 300 million, but they made $100 million. I
Hey.
mean,
1/3 is better than nothing.
something's wrong there. Well, they're waiting on, it'll
The
be.
math.
You're not getting the European releases, and you're
Or
not
the
getting the
DVD
DVD
release.
That
stuff,
might
and
be, there might be.
Then the
with
Blu-ray
European-
release.
and Gravity 2 will be coming out in a couple of months.
And the other,
The budget was $100 million.
yeah,
Oh,
so it
okay.
broke even.
It made, let's see,
Said more than 100 million on the news.
USA.
How?
Because everybody wanted to see it because you saw it in the news. It was one of the most accurate space movies made, and that's according to astronauts. So,
Yeah, that was according to Neil deGrasse Tyson, astrophysicist.
yeah.
I mean,
And
I
a
guess
couple of-
Russians really do have vodka stashed on all their little space stations.
It's grossed as of February 7th, $266 million. So maybe it was the first one that was budgeted at $100 million.
And the next one is how many of you like the movie Transporter?
I did.
Transporter
The
with
original?
Jason Statham?
The first
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
They're
The
gonna make.
second
I
one.
mean, it was a fun
Third one?
movie, you know.
Apparently, they're gonna
Fourth
make.
one?
They're gonna make a new trilogy. There's only 3. They're gonna make a new trilogy
is the
without
fourth
Jason Statham.
I know.
Really?
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah.
What's the guy's name? That's
I haven't read that one.
no. It was a release today. Who was going to be taking over for the Transporter? I can't remember.
I just don't think. I actually think they should have left this one alone because without Jason
Well, I
Statham.
mean, they should have left it alone after the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. I mean,
So-
it's kind of like Taken 2. I mean, what are they gonna do for the third?
Hey,
one?
Hollywood,
yeah.
Hollywood, listen to me for just a second. Come up with some new friggin' material.
There's no such thing.
Yeah, well, they don't need to if they're just going to do cash grabs.
Right.
Yes, I
You know, in
understand.
a world where Netflix and Hulu is taking everybody's
remember
time
who this is.
with original programming, not to mention HBO Showtime with all these great shows, hour-long dramas that people are
Sure.
getting into like movies.
Yeah.
You know, Hollywood, their only choice is to make these big stupid ass fucking tentpole movies and try to get $100 million real quick. And nobody's going to go back to see them the next weekend. Nobody's going to tell their friends, "Oh, you
No.
got to see this shit."
But I
They're going
think,
to say, "Hey, don't see that." But everybody's going to go that first weekend, and they're going to make their money back.
I think Disney's the only one who's been successful at the moment because most of these Marvel movies have been mediocre. But because it's Marvel, everybody wants to see them. I mean, some of these movies haven't aged well the second or fifth or 12th time you see them.
Yeah.
One more is wondering if you guys, what do you think? Do you want to see the movie Monument Men?
Yes.
Yes.
Ryan?
Yeah, I've been wanting to see that. It looks interesting.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It seemed like they started coming out with advertisements almost a little too early.
It got
Way
pushed.
too early.
It got pushed back.
I mean, I remember
I
seeing
see.
one like 6 months ago.
Yeah. It was,
I mean, pushback. Why? That's usually not a good sign. That's like, we need to do some punch-up shit. You know?
yeah. Well, it's like the movie Wind Talkers with Nicolas Cage. I remember seeing previews for it 10 years before the movie came out.
It's starting
That
to
was
be
a
a
letdown movie,
trend.
too.
It seems to be a trend. We're starting to see trailers for movies now that aren't coming out until next year.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the times it's because somebody fucked something up. You know, they have to go back and reshoot
right.
an ending sequence or something like that,
Or an actor
you know,
dies.
The ADR is taking forever.
We got a problem now.
Or it didn't test well
Yeah,
with the
Philip
audience,
Seymour.
so they have to reshoot
Or it
half
didn't
of it.
test well with
Right.
the audience. Or
Right.
the audience
And that happens a
testing
lot.
is the
Yeah.
dumbest fucking thing that could possibly happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are stupid. Anybody that's available on a Wednesday afternoon to make $5 to go watch a movie, I don't want them saying what should be in or out of that movie.
Yeah.
How about 4 guys who talk about movies for a living?
Well, shoot, I got off of work and had to do this at 8:30 at night. So,
I want to know why with
dead.
this show now we can't get the pre-release DVDs so we can see them before they come out, so we can give our opinion.
Because you
I know.
got to talk
right,
to
screener
Stag.
copies.
You know, come on, guys.
So,
Hollywood, we're here for you.
so
We give you nothing but praise.
really? Apparently they're not watching the show.
There,
I
two thumbs
guess
up.
Ways.
You know what that means on
Either
our
that
show?
or they were
Nothing.
watching
We'll be
until
sued for
Rob.
that. Don't.
Yeah.
What was that, Ryan?
I said either that or they were watching before Rob started to unleash on them.
Oh, that's
Right.
true.
Well,
oh well.
so- I
Wouldn't
Give
be
me
the
other
first
one,
time.
But, you know.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about next month's theme is something that we came up with. So we'll see if it's successful. What it is it's the person has to pick for their co-host. So next week's
I
movie,
don't get it.
James picks for me to see if I like it. So this will be.
Or hate it.
Well,
It depends on his mood, I think.
No, I might like it's going to be a trauma movie.
No. I'm not going to do that to Rob.
Asshole.
Thank you.
When Rob retires, maybe.
So,
Oh, wait, aren't you retired? Oh, jeez. Okay,
I can
Romeo and
leave.
Juliet next week.
no.
Sound of music.
No, I'm actually going to be picking one that's a Canadian film
Eh?
from 2010 called Incendies.
Incendies.
Yes.
Have you heard of this one, Ryan?
I think I might have come across the cover box, maybe on Netflix.
Is it on Netflix? That'd be cool. Anyway,
Perhaps.
it's Incendies. People out there, it's Incendies, and it's 2010. It's a
What's an
foreign
Incendies?
flick. You gotta watch the movie.
If it's
Canadian, huh?
so if it's Canadian, if it's a Canadian
Could be
movie,
a
does it really
moose.
count as foreign?
Well, it's actually a Canadian movie that takes place throughout the Middle East, and
Ah.
Oh, so it's done by a Canadian team.
yes, it's
Oh,
a
and it's
Canadian
fucking
release
French
film.
Canadian.
I gotcha.
I got you.
Yes,
Okay.
the director's Canadian. It was released in Canada, but it was also released here by Sony.
Okay.
By
Interesting.
French Canadians.
Yeah,
Oh Lord.
yeah. They're even worse than normal Canadians.
They
Yeah.
are. Ask them. Ask
Well, be-
anybody who
well,
lives in
well,
Vancouver.
well,
Ask them
before
what
we
they
get
think.
too much into alienating potential audience members,
I don't know. I
ladies and
screwed a
gentlemen,
bunch of them over.
We'll
with
probably
the
get a
Downsy
lot
Card.
of them.
I want to mention, ladies and gentlemen, that we do have a Facebook page. So please tell us.
Page. We got a
please-
page too.
Please tell us what you think. If you hate us, if you want Rob to leave, or even James, let us know.
Hey, I
We
don't
might
have to be
read
here.
your letter on air. Just let us know.
And
Tell
I'll
us what-
respond.
Tell us what theme you'd like us to do, what movie you'd like us to review. We may even possibly, maybe, sort of do it.
No,
Maybe.
no.
Doubt it.
Screw you
So
people and Taxi Driver. I'll
So-
beat you.
next
will
week's
beat you.
You
next
keep saying that, buddy.
Next week's movie's Incendies. I gave the movie The Lone Survivor a 4 to 5. James, Ryan, and Rob gave it a 3. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
You see, I still think they're gonna. I still think Will Smith's son's gonna end up
Oh.
being in the ID4 too.
What makes you pick a movie like this? I mean,
It's
just
James.
out of
Actually, I didn't pick that movie. My wife picked it from Red Man.